Okay, hey everyone. Um, Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you had a good time with your families or holidays or whatever you did. We're back into our regular webinar sessions now. So we're doing user focused sessions every 2 weeks. And today we're going to be talking about records. And what I mean by records, these are basically things that are captured in databases. So, a record is, potentially an incident. A single incident in a database is a record. And in this webinar, I'm going to talk you through some of the legacy systems and why they're built the way that they're built, and some of the inherent problems these systems have, and how we're rethinking how things are captured in a database, obviously from an AI first perspective. Before we get going, for those who don't know me, my name's Matthew Hart. I'm one of the founders at SoterAI, CEO, but I also run our product team. But 15 years ago, I was doing something quite different. This is me in the outback of Australia. Just graduated as a mechanical engineer, and worked on what was, I think, the biggest mine site in Australia. We were mining iron ore. And my job was reliability engineering. So what I did as a reliability engineer, my job was to make sure that our machines and our assets weren't breaking down unexpectedly. And these are called unexpected breakdowns. Because if a machine or an asset does break down unexpectedly, it can mean that your production stops. In this case, the iron ore stops moving. In our case, if the wrong thing broke, you could be looking at multiple millions of dollars of lost productivity every hour. So it was quite an important job. Things did break down unexpectedly, and these were called breakdowns. And what happened was the maintenance staff would go out into the field. They would fix the thing that broke, hopefully, but they would also create what was called a breakdown notification. And I think this is a really good analogy to the safety world. And I want to take you through an example that shows how capturing data can, obviously it's very good, but can have some real inherent problems with it as well. So imagine the fitter, he or she goes out in the field, starts to analyze what went wrong with the machine, obviously to fix it, right? But they also capture the information, they create a maintenance breakdown notification. So in each notification, they detail what went wrong. And basically they fill out fields in this form that they have to fill out. So they start filling it out, right? And some of the fields are what failed, how it failed. So they're looking at it, they're trying to assume what happened, and they're entering this information into a maintenance system. And this is the first bit of information that gets captured, but it is actually the most important piece of information that gets captured as well, because from that initial analysis and what gets captured, everything flows after that. And that's where my job would come in. So I would analyze all these maintenance notifications. So let's take a real example. Well, not a real example, but an example. So let's say a pump is leaking. So one of the seals is breaking. So the technician comes, he creates this maintenance order. What is the pump? What happened? Seal failure. What was the cause? Well, it's leaking, it's wear and tear, right? That's what the technician sort of only knows, and that's what he or she enters in. But there is a problem with this. The technician is entering information almost like an analysis of what went wrong before any sort of formal investigation is put in place. And I think this is a real good analogy for safety as well. When we create incidents, who's creating the incident at the end of the day? What training have they done? How much thought have they put into it? And a lot of the forms that I see that people fill out have causes in there. So they're starting to, do a root cause, some sort of analysis, let's say, maybe not a root cause analysis, some sort of analysis of what happened. So in this case, the technician, what's the easiest thing to enter? Don't want to blame anyone else, probably enters what I saw in these notifications, they just enter the same thing all the time. So you're capturing data, it's structured data, it looks really good, but it could be really wrong. And then, you have many of these breakdowns, and this is where the reliability engineer comes in. So our pumps are always failing, it's happening often, it's an expensive problem. We need to analyze this. So let's say now I see 37 of these seal failures, and the majority of them are labeled as wear and tear. Now, my analysis as an engineer and what AI is doing as well in 2026 now is concluding, okay, we see all this wear and tear. Seal wear is the dominant failure mode. Now, seal wear is actually when a seal gets old, the rubber potentially deteriorates, and then it's the common wear failure mode. But because the analysis wasn't done properly, and because anyone was sort of entering any sort of information really quickly, we could have missed the real issue, the real root causes. Are we tightening it too tightly or too loosely? Startup, once you put something, anytime you have a new piece of equipment, you run the risk of startup failure. So potentially in seals, you can have cavitation, right? Maybe the material is wrong. So many things could have caused this 37 failures, but because we've captured the information and people have made initial analysis, we say, all right, it's wear and tear. That was a problem for me as a reliability engineer, doing data analytics techniques 15 years ago, which are horribly outdated today. Now we have AI doing this, and it's a real problem, I think. So why do forms get this wrong? What's the inherent problem with forms? Firstly, they're very rigid, but they also force answers very early. What is the cause? What is the code? What is the machine? What happened? Who is the person? Like, these are very deterministic things that people have to enter in. And from that they're almost taken as gospel. Everything that's done, the investigations that's done after, the analysis that's done after, the AI that's analyzing it after, takes it all as fact. So there's a real inherent problem there. I've seen this in safety. I've seen this in engineering. People confuse observation with diagnosis. Just because you see something doesn't mean it's the root cause. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's the root cause. But because our forms are treating them all as the same thing, we have this inherent problem. People want to fill out a form very quickly. I hate filling out forms. We all hate filling out forms. It's like, all right, quick, all right, what is the field? Hopefully it's a drop down, boom, 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 done, right? And because of these three failures and probably many more, you start locking in errors as facts. And then the AI treats them as facts, or when you do your analysis of this, you treat it as facts. I'm not here really to bash other vendors, because there's a lot of good legacy systems out there. But I want to just talk about the problem that is coming. When you bolt on AI onto information that potentially isn't holistic, or even worse, isn't correct, the damage is already done. So when you start having features that analyze a lot of data, summarize the incident, suggest corrective actions, what is the root cause of this? The only information that the AI often has is what's been entered. And if what's been entered isn't correct, we start to have a real problem. So in the bold at the bottom here, I think it's really important. The AI confidently reinforces the bad inputs. It looks really smart, but it's trapped in the forms lies. So what I want to take you through, and a couple of other problems we've seen with forms and databases from legacy systems. We have examples. You guys have told us, you trying to get changes to how a form is created or what is captured. Your vendors are charging you six-figure, I've even heard of seven-figure sums, right? So can be very, very expensive to make any sort of changes. It shouldn't be like that. Software has moved on, even in the last couple of years. I would say even in the last 10 years. It shouldn't be like that. I keep having a problem with my page. Hopefully there's no issue here. Okay. They don't match how the work actually happens. So they force a sort of process on people that might not match the way that work should be done. They overcollect, they underuse data sometimes, and they slow down people as well. Like as I said, we all hate filling out forms. It's very slow. It seems very old-fashioned. So what I want to quickly take you guys through is what we're building. We are building a database. We are building effectively forms as well, but we're approaching it from the user-first perspective. How do we make it easy for the user? And how do we capture the right information and not jump to conclusions too quickly? Um, so first I want to jump into SoterAI. So this is our dev version. What you guys will start seeing probably towards the end of February is records management here on the left-hand side. So the first thing to know here is you can create any record you want. And you can create it yourself, or a manager within our system can create it themselves. So gone are the days where you have to talk to your vendor to create these things. You can create anything. I've created how many cups of coffee as an example. Like there's no limit on what you can do. When you're creating them, you can add the field yourself. So you can add whatever you want: text fields, number fields, date fields, whatever you want, right? There is no limitation on what you can do and what you can customize, as long as if you have the right user level within the system. Okay. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, not groundbreaking, other than you have all the control to create whatever you want, and you can start creating these records that match your actual problems that you're trying to solve or what you're trying to capture. But I think where it starts to get really cool is then how we're capturing information or how we populate these forms. And I said forms are bad or they have problems. And I believe even the way we're building it has some of these potential problems built into it. So we are populating fields, we are capturing information. You might, or even in incidents, you might have like the cause of the incident, a description. Potentially, you could add a field, the cause, right? So anyone can start doing that sort of analysis that I said potentially is quite dangerous. But what we realized is we don't want to have completely uncontrolled capturing methods. We do have to organize the data in some way. So what we said is like, let's create these forms that people populate, but then everything else that they talk about, every other picture they take, every video they take, everything else they do within our system is also captured. So we're not throwing away any data. And while we may capture something in a form field, it doesn't mean that that's the truth, right? And when you're doing when you run like an incident investigation workflow in the future, it might challenge some of those things, some of those conclusions that's made. When it uploads it into risk intelligence, it might not just take everything as gospel, right? Because you've got the entire workflow that all the conversation, the photos, everything that will get uploaded as well. And it might start changing the analysis because it has access to more data without necessarily the mistakes of, this is the cause, this is, a premature decision. Okay, so what I want to show you now, this is not how it's going to look for a user, but I just want to show you how it is going to work, how the logic works. So now I want to populate one of these records. Now this isn't going to be the UI, like we're not going to have agent mode. It's not going to be a chat like this, exactly like this. I'll show you what it looks like in a second. But let's just say I'm going to populate an incident. So I want to create an incident. And you can type in anything you want. You can take pictures. You can press the voice button and talk to the system. And that's actually what I want to show you today. So I've created like this person, doing all this talking. You'll notice that I've done it in Spanish as well, because it actually doesn't matter what language we do it in. So this is just me speaking Spanish, which I don't do, sort of explaining what happened, right? For those who speak Spanish, you'll understand this. For those who don't, we're going to process and we're going to see what happens. So we're taking all this raw text, and we're filling out the record form. Okay. Now, we don't want it in Spanish, so I wouldn't have wanted to say that, so do it in English. Perfect. All right, I'm just going to run it again. I'm going to do it in English. Now, again, this isn't the UI. It's just showing how the logic works. So it's taking all the raw information I said, and it's filling out. To be fair, I don't have a lot of fields. I can add a lot more fields. You guys can create your own fields. But here we go. It's organized it all. It hasn't added, at least in the description, it hasn't added any information that I haven't said, but it's definitely cleaned it up. It's added the severity because I've created that in the back end, what my severities are. It's given it a location. I might want to change that. Preparation area. I didn't put my name in, so my name. And then I save, right? And I've created a record. So that's the logic behind how records are going to work. It's isn't going to actually look like that. It's going to look more like this. So we're also launching a mobile first version of all this, where anyone can jump in and create any sort of record type. So you put the information here. You can talk. We're going to have another big button, I think, take pictures or take videos. You just upload any sort of information you want. And then in the form, it'll populate this form. Now, this isn't going to, like, I can't demo it here. I can only show you what it's going to look like. So what this will mean is, like, very easy for anyone to capture information. You capture all the information that the person says. If they take photos, you start to capture all the information that the person sees. It organizes it into a form, which we know the problems of that, but okay, we're going to stick with that as well, because I think that would be one step too far. But then everything we've said is also is captured and linked to this record as well. So nothing gets lost. If you're going to do an investigation on this later, or if you're going to analyze all your incidents later, or hazards, or near misses, or whatever else that you're capturing, the AI will refer to all the raw data, not just what's captured in the form. And that's how we believe pretty strongly, and I believe is pretty correctly, that we're not going to have the problem of these legacy systems where we're just building AI layers on top of what people are entering, whether it's right or wrong. But we're trying to capture a lot more information. Okay, slightly organize it because we still need to have it in a database somewhere that people can refer to. But then capture all the information, and then analyze it from there. So as I said, I might just stop my sharing there. As I said, we're looking to launch this end of February. We do have a number of trial customers that are pretty much jumping on, I would say, this week or very early next week. There is the opportunity for anyone to jump onto this and be one of our early customers, users of this. And there should be 2 or 3 reasons why you want to jump on early. One is that you believe in my theory and hypothesis that the way that we've been capturing information and storing it in databases is inherently flawed, and you want to be part of the solution. The second one is that you are horribly frustrated with your existing AHS platform. And I would say that's going to be quite a few of you, to be perfectly honest. And by the way, we've got a record number of attendees again today. So that's probably the second reason. And part of that frustration might be that you configure sums every time you want to change something. And I would honestly challenge everyone to say, why would you invest in a platform with the inherent flaws that these platforms have? And I believe approaching it from a workflow and an AI first point of view, or strategy, is going to have like a significant ultimate impact on understanding the risk in your business, but then ultimately controlling that risk as well. So that's the end of my piece here. As always, if you have some questions, now would be a very good time to throw them in the chat. Okay, I don't have any questions yet, which hopefully is a good time. If you do want to talk to me about it, I love this topic. I do. I would like to talk to as many people as possible. Um, Also, getting your feedback on how it works or how it should work, or potentially how it shouldn't work, is also super valuable. So I'd be happy to have that discussion. Um, and if you want to jump in and be one of those early users with us, also that's a reason to contact me. And you probably got emails from me in the past, but matthew.hart@soteranalytics.com. Great. All right. I think we're done. Oh, I have one question. Let's see. When will the mobile application be available? Uh, Pretty much on launch as well. So let's say end of February. Not everything is going to be available in the app. Some, as you guys know, you're some of our heaviest users of SoterAI. You understand some work is really good to be done on a desktop. Um, Other work is like creating these records is probably better done on a mobile device. And we're going to try to segment the two. So I think you'll always be able to do everything on a desktop, but you were not going to be able to do like for example, on a cell phone. So yeah, we're building that at the moment, and I would say that's end of February as well. Okay, I think we are done. Thank you, everyone. Hope we have a good year together, and see you soon.